Serious, what is the fastest way you have seen someone ruin their life? From r/AskReddit. Part 1. A guy I met several times around our group of friends back in the days joined ISIS. We were all shocked by this news. No one could have predicted that. He literally exploded himself 2 or 3 months after, but no casualties. He was shot by the coalition. I'm a lawyer. Another well-respected lawyer in my jurisdiction was involved in an absolutely huge property settlement involving dozens upon dozens of deeds, side agreements, financial documents, yada yada yada. The whole lot, presumably involving literally 100 or so signatures, had been signed off by her client. In the early hours of the morning, having no doubt slaved away for untold hours getting everything ready for the settlement the next day, she must have realized that she had missed getting one signature on one minor document from her client, so she faked it. I can see the pressure she was under and how she probably thought it doesn't matter. My client would have signed it anyway and only didn't because they overlooked it. No one will ever notice. Someone noticed and she went from high-paid property lawyer to never being able to practice again. Just like that. People occasionally ask me to sign things off, as a lawyer, and suggest I overlook minor irregularities such as wanting me to witness a signature even though I didn't actually see the signatory sign. Then they get all offended and act like I'm being a stick-up-the-ass perfectionist when I won't do it. A close friend of my best friend grabbed his 8-year-old son's new skateboard and took off down a hill in Georgia. Hit a rock, landed on his head and had permanent brain damage. He lived years before he mercifully died. Had to be restrained the whole time because the damage made him erratic and violent. Wear a helmet. Watched a guy gamble $30,000 away in a night and then cried about losing his life savings, and security had to get involved and escort him out because he started to get angry at the dealers because all they could offer him was free night stays at the hotel for playing so much, but he wanted free play at the table/slots and they refused. I wouldn't call them friends by any means, but an acquaintance and his girlfriend did a dine and dash. And their server followed them outside and stood in front of their car to prevent them from leaving until the police arrived. Stupid move on the server's part for sure, but all the same this acquaintance ran the server over and hit like 2 or 3 parked cars in the process getting out of the parking lot. So yeah, they totaled their car, multiple other cars, and they both caught multiple felony charges. Both of them had priors too. Ended up pleading, and as far as I can recall they both got roughly 5+ year sentences, over $40 meal. Maybe not 100% life ruining, but I'd say over $40 it's proportionally pretty f***ing stupid. Bar fight. Heard a loud commotion for about 30 seconds. Some guy thought this guy was hitting on his date. Suckered punched him. The other guy fell down and clipped the bar. The bar had brass footrest at the base. Snapped the guy's neck so loud you could hear it across the room. Saw a pilot without instrument rating take off into IMC conditions. Instrument meteorological conditions is a flight category that describes weather conditions that require pilots to fly primarily by instruments rather than use visual cues to maintain controlled flight. He had his whole family on board. Weather was closing in. He agreed that it was impossible to get home, but wanted to make it to a larger municipal airport so they wouldn't have to stay in a motel. The fuel attendant and a bunch of old veteran pilots hanging around the airport office all said they'd drive him to a nicer place. But he thought he'd have a better chance of getting out the next day from the other airport. Conditions weren't that bad when he took off, but we all agreed later that no one without instrument rating should have flown that day. So the last time anyone saw that whole family, pilot, wife, 2 adult sons, alive was all of us watching him take off and fly just under the cloud base to do a scud run in the direction of the nearest Muni. They crashed in full overcast 10 miles out. No survivors. All told, it probably took 15 minutes for this guy to make the worst and last decision of his life. This was over 30 years ago, but it's haunted me ever since. What could/should I have done differently that might have convinced him to not fly? I was a newbie pilot at the time, but even I knew it was a bad idea. There were at least 3 other pilots there that day. Did he feel ganged up on? Could we have appointed the most grizzled straight-shooting gravel-voiced veteran to take the guy aside and give him a "I'm not your dad, but" talk? Should we have tackled him and taken away his keys? Called the cops? What would we even have told them? I've long since come to terms with it. But there are still the occasional moments where I feel like I failed. Dude I know won a $3 million settlement from being hit by a car. Spent it all on heroin and was dead within 3 years. Under 30 years old. Edit, wow, this really blew up. To answer some of the questions I see in the thread. I don't think he got hooked on opioids due to the accident. This guy did a lot of weed and shrooms and occasionally coke even before the settlement. The money just allowed him to graduate to heroin. How'd he spend all that money? Sadly, he had a bunch of addict friends who he enabled. He'd treat them to free heroin at these lavish parties. 15 to 20 years ago, an ex worked at a dream job type of place. If you make it professionally in that field, this employer was/is the absolute peak. There is no better place to go. New guy started there, on ex's team, right out of university. His first day he went to the company store and got all the gear with company's name on it, t-shirt, hat, socks, etc., and proudly put it all on. After work, team took the new guy out to drinks to celebrate his first day at dream job employer. New guy gets way too drunk, goes outside to smoke a cig. And then takes his P***NIS out and presses it up against the bar's glass window. PNIS man's new colleagues, all the bar's patrons, and all their staff see his DCK. X closed out their tab and got drunk guy home. The bar calls the employer the next morning, complaining about the new guy's D***CK antics. Banning him and anyone wearing company gear. New guy was fired before lunch, on day 2. A cautionary story. Edit, the bar was in a never gentrified, always wealthy part of SF. CA. Patrons were very wealthy people, entitled. Myself, having worked in fine dining in college, I can only imagine the absolute HLL those patrons raised about seeing some dipshits DCK while slurping down their third martini. Many of you relate to this story, and have shared about not even wearing something as small as a lanyard with company info on it. This is all great logic, please keep it up and share that advice. It is especially pertinent, when your employer, like the subject of my story, is known globally for children's entertainment. Exposing yourself to anyone, let alone a bunch of connected, rich *shoals, is definitely not the move when Pixar signs your check. A high school friend drove drunk and killed the local doctor of a small town. Last I heard, he was still in prison. I posted this once before. I had a friend that had a promising career got upset and went into full road rage for a woman who forgot to turn her blinker on, and he slightly bumped her back bumper on the freeway, causing her to lose control and flipping over and killing the driver and her 2 daughters. Oddly, it was all caught on his car dashcam and a trucker with his own dashcam that was behind him. He is now doing 40+ years in prison. Post update. I wasn't expecting much attention on this story. Additional details that people keep asking me. I can't say we were close friend or good friends. We hung out during high school years. I may have seen him a couple times afterwards. He moved out of state. Most information I got was from his sister. I do know that he is in jail for what he did. Now I'm not sure if his sister is not giving me the full story, but I do know he definitely received high jail sentence. I know he went to college for marketing. I believe he was interning for high-end sports marketing company. Watched a buddy spend his entire life savings betting on the Paulo Costa vs Anya. I begged him not to do it and he lost his and his wife's entire 60K nest egg. She left him immediately with the kids and now he lives at his mom's house. Edit, wow, this blew up. So a little more backstory. He had been betting on prize fighting for a short while and winning. Nothing outrageous, and heck, I even bet with him on a time or two because it was smaller bets, 1 to 200. He had been winning, probably made a few grand, not sure how much, but he was always saying he won and showing off his bets. So I can confirm he had been winning and his luck was pretty impressive. As far as I know, he doesn't gamble anymore and is just trying to rebuild his life. He lost his wife but does spend a lot time with the kids. Arrive at work on their first day as a temp at around 10 a.m. Caught stealing the boss's wallet at 12:30, taken away by police at 1 p.m. The construction to amphetamines pipeline. I've seen 2 very good and competent men fall to absolute ruin in the space of 4 months because of this. My sister started doing meth and heroin. She went from super smart to completely dumb. By the age of 19 she was already a felon. No one in the family wants to help her anymore cause each time we tried either sending her to rehab or tried getting her sober, she would just go back to it. Was supposed to go to college but now she's 22 and stays at different people's houses and begs people for money. Completely cut me and everyone else off from her cause she thinks us trying to help her is us being jealous and not wanting her to be happy in life. The guy who got angry playing basketball and smashed his head, leaving him paralyzed. Edit, this guy. Former friend of mine was arrested for soliciting an 11-year for sexual favors online and traveling across state to meet her. I never expected him to do that. His girlfriend at the time asked if I wanted to be a character witness and I noped out before she finished her sentence. Judge made an example out of him and sentenced him to life. Apparently it wasn't his first SA offense. I can't believe she even stuck around to even consider looking for people to testify on his behalf. Edit, he got the girl to do stuff to him in his car. He was only caught after her friends saw pictures of her boyfriend and realized he was way too old to be an 11-year-old boyfriend and told the girl's mother. He was 31 when he was sentenced. My daughter's boyfriend, July 4, 2023. Hopped in his car blackout drunk to come see my daughter. DUI and hit and run. He is just about to begin a painful, life-altering process. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you enjoyed. Keep the thread going in the comments section down below.